This book is called So You Want to Be President by Judith St. George and David Small. I wanted to be president once, but there are good things about being president and there are bad things about being president. One of the good things is that the president lives in a big White House called the White House. Another good thing about being the president is that the president has a swimming pool, a bowling alley, and a movie theater. The president never has to take out the garbage. The president doesn't have to eat yucky vegetables. As a boy, George Bush had to eat broccoli. When George Bush grew up, he became president, and that was the end of the broccoli. One of the bad things about being president is that the president always has to dress up. William McKinley wore a frock coat, vest, pinstripe trousers, stiff white shirt, black satin tie, gloves, a top hat, and a red carnation in his buttonhole every day. The president has to be polite to everyone. The president can't go anywhere alone. The president has lots of homework. People get mad at the president. Somebody once threw a cabbage at William Howard Taft. That didn't bother Taft. He quipped, "I see that one of my adversaries has lost his head." Lots of people want to be president. If you want to be president, it might help if your name is James. 6 presidents were named James. President Carter liked to be called Jimmy. 4 Johns, 4 Williams. President Clinton liked to be called Bill. 2 Georges, 2 Andrews, and 2 Franklins all became president. You probably weren't born in a log cabin. That's too bad. People are crazy about log cabin presidents. They elected 8. William Harrison was born in a big Virginia mansion, though he won the election with a log cabin and a cider slogan. If you want to be president, your size doesn't matter. Presidents come in all shapes and sizes. Abraham Lincoln was the tallest, 6 feet 4 inches. His stovepipe hat made him look even taller. James Madison was the smallest, 5 feet 4 inches, and only 100 pounds. William Howard Taft was the biggest, more than 300 pounds. He was so big that he had a special tub built for him in the White House bathroom. 4 men could fit into the tub. Maybe Taft's problem was that the presidents can order any food they want. Andrew Johnson once served his guests turtle soup, oysters, fish, beef, turkey, mutton chops, chicken, mushrooms, string beans, partridge, duck, pudding, jelly, and lots of juice. All at one dinner. Though the Constitution says that you have to wait until you're 35, young, old, and in between, you can become president. Teddy Roosevelt, at 42, was the youngest. He had pillow fights with his children and played football on the White House lawn. "You must always remember that the president is about 6, a friend said. Ronald Reagan was the oldest. When he first ran for president, he was 69. He joked that it was his 30th anniversary for his 39th birthday. Some presidents joked and some didn't. Presidents' personalities have all been different. William McKinley was so nice that he tried to stop a mop from attacking the man who had just got him. Benjamin Harrison was so cold that one senator said talking to Harrison was like talking to a hitching post. Calvin Coolidge was so shy and quiet that a dinner guest once made a bet that she could get him to say more than 2 words. "You lose," he told her. Andrew Jackson certainly wasn't shy. When he ran for president, his opponents printed a list of his duels, fightings, and brawls, 14 in all. Don't worry about your looks. Abraham Lincoln was a homely man, but he was one of our best presidents. He reunited the country by winning the Civil War. Someone once called Abraham Lincoln two-faced. If I am two-faced, would I wear the face that I have now? Lincoln asked. Warren Harding was a handsome man, but he was one of our worst presidents. He gave government jobs to his crooked friends. I am not fit for this office and should have never been here, he admitted. Do you have pesky brothers and sisters? Every one of our presidents did. Benjamin Harrison takes the prize. He had 11. It's lucky he grew up on a 600-acre farm. James Polk and James Buchanan both had 9. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and John Kennedy each had 8. 2 presidents were orphans, Andrew Jackson and Herbert Hoover. A president in your family tree is a plus. John Quincy Adams was John Adams' son. Therefore, Theodore Roosevelt and Franklin Roosevelt were 5th cousins. Benjamin Harrison was William Harrison's grandson. James Madison and Zachary Taylor were 2nd cousins. Some presidents threw money around, and some were penny pinchers. James Monroe ordered French silverware, china, candlesticks, chandeliers, clocks, mirrors, vases, rugs, draperies, and furniture for the White House. 93 crates in all. William Harrison was thrifty. He walked to the market every morning with a basket over his arm. Do you have a pet? All kinds of pets have lived in the White House, mostly dogs. Herbert Hoover had 3 dogs, Piney, Snowflake, and Tut. Tut must have been a Democrat. He and his Republican master never got along. Franklin Roosevelt's dog, Fala, was almost as famous as his owner. George Bush's dog wrote Millie's book, Adventures of a White House Dog, as reported to Mrs. Bush. Ulysses Grant had horses. Benjamin Harrison's goat pulled his grandchildren around in a cart. The Coolidges had a pet raccoon. Jimmy Carter and Bill Clinton preferred cats. Theodore Roosevelt's children didn't just have any pets. They ran a zoo. They had dogs, cats, guinea pigs, snakes, mice, rats, badgers, raccoons, parrots, and a Shetland pony called Algonquin. To cheer up his sick brother, young Quinton once took Algonquin upstairs in the White House elevator. You don't have to be musical to be a president. Ulysses Grant certainly wasn't. He only knew 2 tunes. One is Yankee Doodle, he said, and the other one isn't. But many presidents were musical. Thomas Jefferson, John Tyler, Woodrow Wilson played the violin. John Quincy Adams, the flute. Chester Arthur, the banjo. Harry Truman and Richard Nixon, the piano. Bill Clinton, the saxophone. And Warren Harding, almost any brass instrument, including the sousaphone. Some of our presidents knew how to dance, and some didn't. Our first president did a mean minuet. At his inaugural ball, George Washington danced with every lady but his wife. Miss W. had stayed home. James Madison's opinion of his inaugural ball, I would much rather be in bed. Abraham Lincoln wasn't too much of a dancer. Miss Todd, I should like to dance with you the worst way, he told his future wife. Miss Todd later said to a friend, he certainly did. Woodrow Wilson liked to do the jig step while singing his silly ditties. Not all presidents danced, but most had a sport. John Quincy Adams was the first-rate swimmer. Once he went swimming in a Potomac River. A woman reporter snatched his clothes and sat on them until he gave her an interview. Ulysses Grant raced his rig through the streets of Washington and was arrested for speeding. Rutherford Hayes played croquet on the White House lawn. Ronald Reagan split wood. William McKinley's idea of exercise was to sit under a tree with a good book. Golf has been big with presidents. Dwight Eisenhower and John Kennedy were especially good. But when Gerald Ford, George Bush, and Bill Clinton teamed up for a golf game, 3 of their shots clobbered spectators. If you want to be president, you might consider joining the army. George Washington, Andrew Jackson, William Harrison, Zachary Taylor, Ulysses Grant, Rutherford Hayes, James Garfield, Chester Arthur, Benjamin Harrison, and Dwight Eisenhower were all generals. But if you can't be a general, be a hero like Theodore Roosevelt or John Kennedy. Kennedy led his crew to safety in World War II when the Japanese sank his PT boat. Don't be Franklin Pierce. In his first battle, Franklin Pierce's horse buckled. He was thrown against his saddle and fainted. His horse fell, broke its leg, and Pierce hurt his knee. He got elected anyways. Almost any job can lead to the White House. Presidents have been lawyers, teachers, farmers, sailors, engineers, surveyors, mayors, governors, congressmen, senators, and ambassadors. Harry Truman owned a men's shop. Andrew Johnson was a tailor. And Ronald Reagan was a movie actor. There they are, a mixed bag of 41 presidents. What did they think of being head man? George Washington, who became our very first president in 1789, worried about his new line of work. I greatly fear that the countrymen will expect too much from me, he wrote to a friend. He was a howling success. Some loved the job. No president has ever enjoyed himself as much as I, Theodore Roosevelt said. Others hated it. The 4 most miserable years of my life, John Quincy Adams complained. Every president was different from each other, and yet no woman has ever been president. No person of color has ever been president until Barack Obama. No person who wasn't a Protestant or a Roman Catholic has ever been president. But if you care enough, anything is possible. 34 presidents came and went before a Roman Catholic John Kennedy was elected. Almost 200 years passed before a woman, Geraldine Ferrero, ran for vice president. It's said that people who run for president have swelled heads. It's said that people who run for president are greedy. They want power. They want fame. But being president can be wanting to serve your country, like George Washington, who left the Virginia plantation he loved 3 times to lead the country he loved even more. It can be looking towards the future, like Thomas Jefferson, who bought the Louisiana Territory and then sent Lewis and Clark west to find a route to the Pacific. They did. It can be wanting to turn lives around, like Franklin Roosevelt, who provided soup and bread for the hungry, jobs for the jobless, and funds for the elderly to live on. It can be wanting to make the world a better place, like John Kennedy, who sent Peace Corps volunteers around the globe to help and teach others. Every single president has taken an oath. Only 35 words, but it's a big order when you're president of this country. Abraham Lincoln was tops at filling that order. I know very well that many others might in this matter, as in others, do better than I can, he said, but I am right here. I must do the best I can and bear the responsibility of taking the course which I feel I ought to take. That's the bottom line. Tall, short, fat, thin, talkative, quiet, vain, humble, lawyer, teacher, or soldier, that is what most of our presidents have tried to do, each in his own way. Some succeeded, some failed. If you want to be president, a good president, pattern yourself after the best. Our best have asked more of themselves than they ever thought they could give. They have had the courage, spirit, and will to do what they knew was right. Most of all, their first priority has always been to serve the people and the country. That end.